Roman Anthony's hot finish may lead him to be a top 24 pick. I got that and more on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we are your number one source for fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Matthew Ane. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit that bell below to subscribe to the channel and give you a notification every time we drop a new episode. Also, if you're listening on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you're getting that audio source, make sure to leave us a 5-star rating and review and hit that bell to subscribe you to that channel so you get a notification every time we get a new episode. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can just bet $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. I got a really good episode for you. There's a lot of fantasy implications for the Boston Red Sox as a whole, so we need to cover them as a whole. But we need to pick out, okay, what are they going to do for us in 2026? How should I be evaluating them, and how should I be approaching them in 26? And, the obvious name and the elephant in the room is Roman Anthony, the stud number one overall prospect. Well, not number one overall prospect, one of the top prospects coming into 25 that came out and just looked like a monster. Roman Anthony struggled to start off the year but the thing is, though, it wasn't like he struggled at the plate. He actually looked really good in every outing. The issue was he just wasn't seeing the results on the score sheet. Essentially, Roman Anthony looked solid from the day he came up. He was making good contact. He was doing all the right things, and then eventually, you couldn't hold the kid back anymore. He finished with 257 at bats, 48 runs, 18 doubles, a triple, 8 bombs, 32 ribs, 4 stolen bases, 40 walks to 84 strikeouts, and batted .292. That's an incredible rookie outing. And then you look at, okay, well, hey, he had a good showing, right? Like, that's your stats. Well, is it supportive? What supports his performance? What makes it repeatable? Well, I'm going to tell you. The expected batting average obvious is screaming there should be negative regression at 268 expected batting average. Now, I will say this, Roman Anthony, I believe, still has the higher end batting average upside. You look at what he's done in the minors, 288, 291, 272, 306. Like, that isn't done in the minors by mistake. And if anything, if he even batted 268 in his rookie year, I'd still be incredibly impressed. It's an amazing feat to just even have that as your expected batting average in your rookie year, your first, lick at the bigs, and that's what you do. That's pretty darn impressive. Then let's look at the expected slug. The expected slug is sitting at 499. That's incredible. His slug on the year is 463. It really supports it. And let's get it a little bit deeper, because these are hollow stats without some true information behind it, that like what makes those stats repeatable. Well, his barrel percentage is 15.5%. When you mix that with 60% hard contact percentage, that those two make the power repeatable, if not a way higher pace. Makes the quality of the contacts of the doubles numbers and the triple and possibly more triples is definitely repeatable. But the fact that he's putting the ball in play and he's doing stuff with it, those two stats right there look amazing. Now, he walks 13.2% of the time, which makes up for the 27.7% strikeout rate, which hence why there is an expected batting average of 268. Now, I think that if I was able to get this all broken down in the month by month, or even even the last 2 months, I think the K percentage came down, if I remember correctly. And I think that we're probably looking at like 24 to 25% K percentage, with obviously some negative regression in the walk percentage, because that's unsustainable at 13.2%. But even if it came down to 10% with 25% strikeout ratio, the batting average is still in the realm of possibilities. Maybe not 292, but 280s, I think, is definitely in the world of possibilities. Then we look at like the ex-Woba, and that's sitting at 382. Everything about him just in his performance this year screamed amazingness. hit a fly ball 23% of the time, pulled the ball 37.9% of the time. So he's making good contact, causing the ball to lift, which is also making the ball go over the fence. It's just great. I'd love to see the ground ball number come down. He's doing that at 50.6%. But we've seen players be successful in the power category, regardless with the high ground balls. But if it got down to like 45% or even 43%, which I feel is the sweet spot, that would really make it even more effective and a higher ceiling for him overall for the batting average category. Ultimately, I think power is repeatable. I think he's worth a top 24 pick, in my opinion. Right? If I were to start my rankings today, I'd really have to talk myself out of it. I think the upside is there. It's really is screaming like an Ellie De La Cruz kind of breakout kind of type deal. Now, the stolen base numbers, that's not going to be Ellie De La Cruz kind of type, but like, or better yet, like a James Wood, right? Like James Wood went out, didn't really like blow you away in the stolen base category, but was really good for power, really good overall. And if Roman Anthony finishes with 15 stolen bases, but has 30 some odd home runs, which I think is doable with a 280 batting average on a team that I think is going to have a lot of positive regression next year. I want every piece I humanly can of Roman Anthony. So top 24 outfielder, pick in general for me, I think next year, if not slides into 36. Roman Anthony's a stud, and we just need to just call it out at this point. But let's move on. So about Jared Duran. Jared Duran had a disappointing year. And it's disappointing because, you know what, he's been solid for the last couple of years. Obviously had a career year in 2024 by all means, but was still trending in that direction. So we weren't just chasing the late age breakout at 27. It was more of, we just expected more. And here's what we expected more. Obviously, the batting average. We've seen 295 and 285 back-to-back years. For him to go out and hit 256, I think was absolutely atrocious. The runs were down. The team as a whole should have been better. They were having issues with Devers and et cetera and things like that. So, and injuries. So we'll give him a pass on that. But the home run numbers were down. We're down about 5. We drafted him, which I wasn't feeling great about, as a top 12 outfielder. And I just wasn't feeling it. The fact that you're getting a 2020-ish guy, and he didn't even do 2020 this year, to go with, he was supposed to have at least 2020 with the batting average of 280 and then high runs and decent and pretty good ribs. And that's how he returns on an OF1 kind of draft price, right? That ROP, that return on pick. That didn't happen this year. 16 home runs, 84 ribs, 24 stolen bases, batted 256, only 86 runs. Now, if you played in points leagues, you were pretty darn happy outside of the immense amount of strikeouts that he does. But like, he made up for it with 41 doubles this year and 13 triples. He crushed it for you in points leagues. But in head-to-head roto and things like that, he really wasn't getting the job done. And you definitely paid the price in drafting Duran this year, and you didn't get the return on investment. So for me, it was a disappointing year. I hope he comes at a discount. If he's a top 24, like my OF2, I'm going to draft him everywhere, because I think at that point he's at the right price. You're not drafting him at a ceiling like we were this year. And, there's other guys that can do more that are being drafted around where he was this year. And I feel if he was going as a top, 12 outfielder this year, going into 2026, there's other guys that will probably outperform him as a whole. And that's why it's always just been, I've been so against drafting him so high. It is what it is. But coming up next, I got other guys like Masataka Yoshida and Marcelo Mayer and other guys that we truly have questions on. And, what are their 2026 outcomes going to look like? That's coming up after this. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any excitement of these sports seasons, whether you're into following the NFL, NBA, or both. There's no better time to jump in on the action. If you haven't tried it yet, Prize Picks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less than 2 player stat projections, and if you're right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make a lineup, and you can play anywhere. Prize Picks operates, including California, Texas, Georgia. I've been playing Prize Picks during both football Sundays and NBA tip-offs. It keeps every game exciting. I like picking my favorite players like Patrick Mahomes and Steph Curry and seeing how my predictions play out. The new stack feature is a game changer. You can now pick more on Steph's points and threes and assists. And it's in the same lineup. Plus, if one of your players leaves the game early with an injury or anything, it doesn't reboot anything. You don't lose on that. You still can save your lineup and not have a loss right there and then. Download the Prize Pick app today and use the code Locked On MLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That code is Locked On MLB, LOCKEDON MLB, for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. All right, let's get back into it. And I want to apologize in advance if, for the studio behind me at this point. I am in Sweden. So coming to you live from Sweden. Hello, Sweden. I'm on a work trip. So Dom and I will not be together at all over the next 2 weeks because of where I am in the time difference. But I'm still bringing it to you. Let's get into it. Let's talk about Masataka Yoshida. Now, Yoshida is an interesting topic. When Yoshida plays, he's good. When he doesn't play, it's disappointing. This year, it was kind of like me. Only played about 55 games, and in those 55 games, kind of just meh. 188 at bats, 16 runs, 11 doubles, 4 home runs, 26 ribs, 3 stolen bases, and batted .266. Look, you compare that to last year where he played 108 games, and I'm not really impressed with the kind of pace that he had last year. And then we look at this year, and he's just getting older at 31. I think Yoshida is kind of a guy that we don't draft or count on for, being a starter. He's a good streamer. I don't want him on my fantasy teams, if I'm being really frank with this, right? Like, what is he actually doing for your lineup? He's being mediocre at best. This year you paid a top 100 pick for him in a lot of platforms, and he doesn't make good contact with the ball. He doesn't hit the ball consistently hard. The batting average, is decent, but that's it. He doesn't steal bases. In points leagues, he's not walking enough to make up for the negative deficit because, it is what it is when he plays a full season that we've only seen once, I might add, at age 29. It isn't enough for you. I look at him and I go, I'm kind of good. I'm out. I'm kind of out on Yoshida as a whole. He's going to be undraftable for me. And depending on what the draft price is, he will probably end up on my bust list. I think Yoshida, his time is past for fantasy. Maybe in an NL only. AL only, I apologize. Would I then consider drafting him more deeply, like a 15-man league or higher? Then sure. But in anything shallower than that or mixed league, I ain't touching him with a 10-foot pole. Let's move on. Let's talk about Marcelo Mayer. Now, he was a top-end prospect. And Mayer did take advantage of some of his opportunity and then did not know their aspects. Now, let's break that down. And why do I say did and did not? 127 at bats, 20 runs, 8 doubles, a triple, 4 bombs, 10 ribs, and batted .228. Now, there's some good stuff in this stat sheet and there's bad stuff. Obviously, the batting average, that's bad. Now, he struck out a boatload. But I will say this, in 127 at bats, he had 4 home runs with 10 ribs and 8 doubles and a triple in that time. That has some sex appeal. That has me getting a little hot and bothered to go out and draft him if he breaks camp next year and is actually in the lineup. Now, the underlying stats don't really support him having positive regression in a lot of aspects. He only barreled about 9.2%, mediocre. But the hard contact is what I'm really excited for, and what is kind of telling me there is some possible positive regression. So 51.7% hard hit percentage. He can mix in a little bit more quality contact, which 9.2 is better than average in terms of league average, but not elite. 10% is the sweet spot of starting to step over into the league category. He gets to 10%, which is 0.8% mixed in with that hard contact. Things are going to be nice. He does have an average exit velocity of 90 miles an hour, which is against a fastball, of course. But still, if he can get the barreling percentage up along with the hard contact, I think he's going to be great. Now, he's also a rookie who only played 44 games. So this isn't his whole story either. We've seen worse performances from top end talent in those small sample sizes that then come out in year 2 and just look stellar. Mayer's a guy that had 271 right before getting called up. He had 307 the year before and 280 in 2022. 23 was a down year, but ultimately has been a good production for batting average. Then we look at also too, like, what has he done in the minors? Well, in small sample sizes of like 43, 44, 77 at bats, 9 and 8 home runs, which are decent paces. Not great, but decent. But the stolen base numbers were there as well in the minors, at least in 24, with 13. Now, if you would have told me he played a full season, played 160 games, he got me 25 stolen bases and 16 home runs and batted 280 next year at shortstop, I'm pretty happy with that. Now, I'm not going to have to pay that price, which is absolutely wonderful. Him being a shortstop and possibly second base eligibility and third on Yahoo kind of has me a little bit of excited about him. Like, hey, like I kind of want this kid on my team. So what do we do about that? Well, he's going to be a flyer. He's going to be first or second or third, bench player, depending on how crazy the offseason gets and how much the industry kind of pushes him and thrusts him higher. But ultimately, I think if we hear that he's going to break camp, he's going to be in the roster every day. He's going to get every day playing time. Going to have a decent hitting spot in the rotation in the lineup. Mayer should benefit and should be on your team. I also want to see what goes on in spring, but ultimately, right now, I'm looking at Mayer's profile and I'm looking at Mayer himself and what he did in his rookie year, and I go, yeah, there's some appeal there for some positive regression that I don't think, as of right now, anybody really talking about it. So I kind of want to get him on my team if I can. So we'll circle back to this as it goes. He might be on my breakout list coming into this year, or a sleeper, essentially. Let's move on. Let's talk about a painful name, Tristan Casas, first baseman for the Boston Red Sox. Casas just can't stay healthy. Like, legitimately, he has not played a full season in his major league career yet. Now, he's only 25, going to be 26 this year, so there's still hope. He's still a young player. The thing is, why he's so relevant and why we talk about him is because of the ceiling. The ceiling is absolutely incredible. He's a guy that hits the ball hard. He can crush home runs. And when he's playing, he's good. That's the problem. Just a matter of, is he going to be out on the field or is he another Alberto Mondesi? And the question is, I don't know. Now, the thing is, I think people are finally starting to feel the pain and question whether he's even going to be healthy in 2026. Therefore, I think he's going to come at a value too. So I will take the flyer on him. This year, I think you had to get him with a top 50 or 60 pick. Correct me if I'm wrong, drop it in the comments and I'll gladly, admit defeat, because I'm saying this with like 70% confidence here on where he was drafted this year. But ultimately, if Casas is well in the 150s, we're expecting him to be, pick 150, first baseman 15, 16 or 17, sweet spot. I'm playing that hard because now we have some built-in upside, and we have a price that I'm willing to drop him after a week if he does not perform, or after 2 weeks. He's not a guy at that point that I have to be patient with or I have to roster because I paid a price for him. Now he becomes expendable, which is the perfect kind of, advantage you want or a position you want to have with a player like this. High ceiling, low floor, and, no attachments. And that's the kind of how I'm going to approach Tristan Casas going into 2026. Now, this one, I don't know if he even returns. This is Alex Bregman. He's a free agent, obviously. Don't know where he's going to land. If he comes back to Boston, great. He barely played this year, but if he comes back to Boston, I think it's going to be a good landing spot as long as the guy can stay healthy. I can't even say kid because the guy is like my age, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he's 31. I'm actually older, so I'm his senior at this point. But when he came back, he played about 114 games this year. He looked good, right? Like 18 home runs in that time through 433 at bats, 64 runs, 28 doubles, 62 ribs. Had a 273 batting average. Looks real solid. Like, he's still got some juice left in it at age 31. Underlying stats, obviously, I'd love to see more barreling like we saw in the past. Hard hit percentage is okay at 44.4%. I would love to see more quality contact, at least get up to 8%. And then, we could talk about, him cracking the 20s to 25 home run aspect of things. But I will say the plate discipline is 100% there. He barely chased, only 19.8%, only whiffed 15%, only struck out 14%, and walked 10.3%. Those are things that are, hey, this batting average is sustainable, it's repeatable, and if anything, he may have gotten you know, a little unlucky in my opinion with those kind of numbers. So I think there's better days to come for Alex Bregman. Let's see where he lands. If he comes back to Boston, I'm really going to like it. And again, more quality contact equals to better fantasy output. So let's see what happens. As long as the price doesn't get out of control, I'm definitely going to be willing to add him on my team. But coming up next, I got other guys coming up like Garrett Crochet or Crochet, however we say his name. What's Lucas Giolito going to do? And then some rookies that I think we need to opt going into 2026. That and more coming up next. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can just bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play. I build parlays, tried player props. I've even followed live games and then gotten the action mid-game. If I'm watching football, it's even more exciting now that I got a little something riding on the game. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com and download the FanDuel app today and get started. And look, got to make that $5 bet count, right? Well, here's the thing. Based on everything I'm seeing for Bo Nix going up against Houston this week, they have him as a 16 and a half projected points just in total for his fantasy output. What does that tell you? That means they're not expecting a lot of yards and they're not expecting a lot of touchdowns from him. So I'm going to do an anytime touchdown because that kid can run in at any point. I think he's going to get a passing touchdown, and I think he's going to have the over on the yards. But don't get greedy. Don't get greedy. If the over is 200, I'm taking that. I think he'll get over that. And then because I'm feeling sexy, I'm going to throw in a Cortland Sutton anytime touchdown as well, because why not throw in the stack, double the times, and killing it if you get the passing touchdown to him. So do it. On FanDuel, download today. All right, let's get back into it. What you came here for, Garrett Crochet. And I really need to learn how to say this guy's name, and I apologize. Yeah, Crochet. I was saying it right. Okay. Sorry about that. So he came into this year and by all means said, yo, guys, let's just talk about me being an SP1, because that's pretty much what you had to pay this year. And he earned it. He was absolutely lights out. 205 innings pitched, 255 strikeouts, a 2.59 ERA with a 102 whip, looking stellar. Even the FIP was at 289, which is fielding independent pitching. Essentially, what your ERA would be if you had an average defense behind you. On top of that, the expected ERA was a 293. So everything is kind of supported. Almost a half a run difference, and I'm okay with it. Still sub 3. I think next year, probably 3.15, which still makes him an ace. The strikeout numbers make him an ace with low ERA percentage. I think that everything about him is just looking like is going to be a stud. Where am I drafting him and how am I approaching him in 2026? Well, that's a tough one. There's a lot of questionable names that I think are going to be in the top 10, top 12 at the position for starting pitcher. But Crochet is probably one of the names that ultimately I feel is the safe option. We know that the strikeouts are going to be there. We know that he's going to be able to, get himself out of trouble. And we know that everything that he's been doing over the last 2 years is repeatable because he's repeated it 2 times. Now I see a path and a pattern where, okay, I'm going to now bet on him. The only thing that's going to stop him now is if anything were to happen to his health. And I don't want to put that into the universe, knock on wood, but ultimately, that's, I think, the only thing in his way. So Crochet, I think, is going to be a stellar option. I think probably for me, a top 5 SP. I think that he's earned it, right after the Skeens, the Wheelers, and the Scoobs, the conversation starts happening. Is he SP4? I don't know. I have to do the rankings, which is coming. But Crochet, we're going to need to talk about. I think he's at least a top 5 SP going into 2026. He's earned the right to be there. Let's move on. Lucas Giolito, a free agent. I want to talk about him because we're talking about the team. Is he going to return? Well, maybe not. He might honestly end up being a Yankee, which I don't know. But here's the thing. He made some serious improvements, and he actually really looked good. He changed his launch angle, and you saw a significant difference throughout the season as that angle started coming down and just really looked good. And the results showed 145 innings pitched, 121 strikeouts, a 3.41 ERA with a 1.29 whip. Now, the whip I'm not a fan of. And even the FIP is saying he should have been another half, a little bit more than a half run worse than what he performed. But let's give him the benefit of the doubt. It's a little bit of a mix, but I'm not going to also gonna get overly excited for it anyway. The underlying stats say for me, a guy that doesn't produce ground balls at a higher rate at 39.5%. Honestly, I'd like to see that more at like 45%. Guy that doesn't really suppress hard contact. He still gives up hard contact 41.1% of the time. Guys still barrel against him 9% of the time. Even with those improvements and how he looked, right? He could just be advanced stats kind of like anomaly, like a Framil Valdez and things like that. But, I've been got by Lucas Giolito too many times for me to really want to trust him. I'm not trusting him with his top 36. That's somebody else's landmine. Top, what? 44, I guess the number is. No, 50 pitcher. Maybe like low end 50, but I think 60, like an SP 5.6. That is kind of where I'm still going to feel good about it. You may say I'm crazy. You may say I'm nuts, but I promise you that we've seen this story too many times for me to say, yeah, you can trust him now. He was a big spider tack guy. When he was super successful, that is what happened. So you got to approach Lucas Giolito with a grain of salt and take this, and we won't need to see it twice. Let's see how it is. Let's even see spring training before you start attacking me. But right now, I can't trust him with a 10-foot pole, so therefore I'm not going to draft him if he's any higher than SP 5 or 6. Let's go. Let's move on. Let's talk about Franklin Arias. Franklin Arias is a prospect, just so everybody knows. He's super young, 19 years old. We might not even see him this year unless he decides to thrust himself to the bigs, which we've seen multiple times this year alone. These guys come out of nowhere, absolutely crush the ball, and say, I need to be in the bigs because I'm just that awesome. But here's who he is, right? On the stat line this year in 2025, 479 at bats, 62 runs, a double, 27 doubles, a triple, 8 home runs, 66 ribs, 12 stolen bases, and batted 278. Look, there is a little bit more to his game too. The power isn't fully there. Raw game power 20 out of 45 and raw power 30 out of 40. He has decent power. I don't think he's ever going to be this electric kind of like home run hitter. But he might be a guy that gets you 15, but he can still bases. He's fast as hell. He has a 40 out of 40 speed. We see it out there. He can definitely steal some bags. So if he hit 15 home runs, got on base and hit at the top of the lineup for this Boston Red Sox team, and got driven in frequently, mixed with the stolen bases opportunities, he's a Nico Horner, super, super, super light. He's a name we're going to be paying attention to that I might want to get my hands on, depending on when he comes up, where he's hitting in that lineup, and all the expectations. But we'll see. Let's talk about this last prospect here, Peyton Tolle. Now, Peyton Tolle, another guy here. He just has pretty much been on the Boston for a bit now, and looks like he got his first lick this year. Did not look great. 16 innings, 19 strikeouts, a 6.61 ERA. No, I'm sorry, a 6.06 ERA with a 1.59 whip. Not great. But you look at his previous history in the minors, and he's a lot better than what we saw out on the field. In 2025, before getting the call, 91 innings pitched, 133 strikeouts, a 3.04 ERA with a 0.99 whip. A lot better than what we saw out on the field in the bigs. And this happens too with pitchers, right? Like they don't always are spot on, especially the first couple of licks at the bigs. Then you also look at the year before, still had a great season, 3.21 ERA with 125 strikeouts throughout 81 innings pitched. Dude's a strikeout machine. He has really good stuff. Look, I will say this. Look, we look at his prospect report, 70 out of 70 fastball, 45 out of 50 slider, changeup, 40 out of 45, command, 45 out of 60. Dude has a lot of good stuff, and he has good control. What does that tell you? Toll is going to eventually figure it out and then be valuable. If he breaks camp next year, because especially if like, Giolito doesn't come back, there's holes in that rotation if they don't bring anybody in through free agency, which therefore there is a path for me to take him as a sleeper and just kind of see what we can do. And, if he has the first 2 starts to bed, he's getting dropped like he's hot and it's not even going to be a bat in my eye because he's going to be so cheap. It's not going to matter. But ultimately, like, we got to figure it out when it comes to Toll. But he's going to be a sleeper, I think, as long as he has a starting rotation spot because of what he's offered in the minors and the upside of that. But that's it for today. So, guys, please like, subscribe, comment, rate, review, do everything you can to share the show. And thank you for making Locked On Fantasy Baseball your first listen each and every day. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get your local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Peace out, guys.